Thanks for joining us for our annual prosperity briefing featuring the Ohio State University's latest outcome data on our program. I'm Amy Claiborne, and I'm president, CEO, and co-founder of Families Flourish. As you can tell, I've got a cold. So I'm going to get things started and turn it over to my absolutely fabulous team, Jamie Sager, our Senior Program Director, and then Shiloh Todorov, our Director of Development and Communications. And then they'll turn it over to Dr. Jason Reece, our Program Evaluator with Ohio State University. We are particularly excited to bring you the 2026 Prosperity Report briefing because this year marks a decade since the co-founders of Family Flourish began researching and crafting the ideas that became our unique in the nation program. Since we onboarded our first families in 2018, we have welcomed 337 individuals into the program. Jamie, could you take it from there?
Sure. Thanks, Amy. So I want to remind you all a little bit about that journey. OSU collaborated with us to create and then pilot this new idea. Our theory was that we could combine housing in higher resource neighborhoods with coaching and programs. And by doing so, we could help transform 2 generations of a family. The coaching and programs would help parents stabilize their housing and grow their income, while moving to neighborhoods with great schools, green spaces, and safer streets would expose the children to all kinds of families. And it helps the parents and older youth address their toxic stress. We graduated our first 2 groups since the pilot. Group 1 celebrated their launch with toolkits in hand back in September, and 14 members of Group 2 graduated just 9 days ago. And speaking of graduation, 4 of our youth in the pilot will graduate from high school this spring. We celebrated them in April, and here is a sampling of what we heard from them. Shiloh, I don't hear sound.
Not going to allow me to share sound, I guess, in spite of my practice. So we'll send that link out as a follow-up.
Okay, awesome. I hope everybody takes the chance to look at the link because it was very touching hearing these young adults speak about their upcoming graduation. So preliminary outcome data from Group 1, who graduated the 3-year program in September 2025, shows that 10 of 13 have been able to choose housing that suits their needs after graduation. 6 stayed in their same units and then 4 moved. 2 remaining families returned to living with relatives. Reason include health limitations and prioritizing return to school. And then the final family is living independently in a lower resource neighborhood. In August of 2022, when Group 1 started the program, 62% were homeless or doubled up with family and friends. So 3 years of stability while with us in the program was a phenomenal accomplishment for many. 3 families left the program without income, including 1 who is finishing school. With data on 9 of the 10 remaining graduates, average income growth was more than 43%. That 3-year growth is in line with the families in the pilot program, which lasted for 4 years. We continue to be dedicated to the collection of and responding to our data. Today is the next check-in on how we're doing, and Dr. Jason Reece, our lead evaluator, will join us on the screen soon to share an overview and take your questions. As a quick preview, Jason said in a recent meeting, "We are having a profound impact on our families and their children. We are thrilled to have you hear from him." One note, our evaluation is not only conducted by Dr. Reece, we also employ measurement resources ensure impact. Many of you may think of these as Sherry Cheney Jones's companies. Her team helps us to analyze the experience families, landlords, and coaches have in our program. For just a couple of housekeeping notes, here's our Director of Development and Communications, Shiloh Todorov. Shiloh?
Thanks, Jamie. Since we're using the webinar mode today, you'll need to put your questions for Dr. Reece and for our team into the Q&A tool, please. So Q&A, not chat. If you don't see it already on the bottom of your screen, you can click on the three dots and select it from the menu there. I'll rejoin the panelists at the end and ask your questions to the correct team member. That's all you need to know right now. Right now, I want to welcome Dr. Jason Reece. Jason is Associate Professor, City and Regional Planning at the Knowlton School of Architecture at The Ohio State University, and he is also our lead evaluator. Jason, welcome.
Thank you, Shyla, and wonderful to be here with all of you today. Really pleased to share our third interim evaluation report. And I share this work on behalf of my colleague and collaborator, Dr. Ji-Young Lee, who is also co-leading evaluations with me at this time. So I want to start with a little bit of background on what's in this year's evaluation report. First, just to note, what are we measuring? So we focus our evaluation on the participant experience in the program and how the participants view various program elements, such as their housing, the context of their neighborhood, coaching, and monthly programs. Um, as you can see on the bullets on the left, we will ask about how this impacts their quality of life in numerous ways. Everything from health, wellness, to children's exposure activities at school, to even talking to families about their post-program plans. Um, with the assistance of data collected by our collaborators' measurement resources, we also have data on the experience of property managers involved with the program and the Families Flourish coaches. So this evaluation, who are we collecting data on? As Jamie noted earlier, groups 1 and 2 have just graduated for the program, and this evaluation focuses on groups 3, 4, and 5, which includes a total of 42 participating families. We triangulate data from various sources for this, including surveys where we had an excellent response rate, 40 out of 42 families. And interviews were explicitly targeted to families in groups 3 and 4 who have been in the program for more than 2 years. And we, of course, look at this in the context of administrative data. And as I noted earlier, those resources and surveys done by measurement resources. Ji-Young and I have been part of the evaluation activities with Families Flourish since the beginning. And over the last 8 years or so, have evaluated both the pilot program and now are in our third year of evaluating the current program. I do want to talk just briefly about context and contextual differences, just to help you understand the different experiences in terms of the economy and these macro issues that are happening in both locally and nationally, and household differences between families in the pilot and families in the program today. So families in the current program are, in comparison to the pilot program, are more likely to have previously come from homelessness, to be younger with younger children, and to have experienced having a child just prior to or while in the program. There's been 16 babies born among the first 100 families in the program. And also, and I'll dive into this a little later, more likely to be engaged in completing a degree program or other kind of time-intensive career goal. The macroeconomic differences are not going to be a surprise to folks, but just have them here as reference. Obviously, our program families right now are in an environment that's influenced by rising inflation costs across multiple dimensions of household need, a housing market that's grown more challenging in the last few years, and new economic uncertainties. So I'll start here with just a quick profile of what our families look like in the program. And this is, again, looking at all 100 families thus far who have been enrolled. So our families earn about $37,300 a year in average income. a term that some of you may have heard from some of the great work of United Way in talking about this topic. Nearly all of these folks are what are defined as ALICE families. These are asset limited, income constrained, but employed families. Um, and as I noted earlier, approximately 44% of participant families were homeless or not living in a space of their own prior to joining Families Flourish. It's a diverse group, and I'll share some of that data in a second. About half of the participants had some level of college education, and you'll see a reflection of that when we talk about kind of some of the coaching goals and some of the career goals of folks and the importance of finishing those post-secondary opportunities. I'll show you a quick look at the diversity of the geography of where folks came from and moved to. But also, in addition to families being Alice families, they're also credit impaired. So over half of the participating families had credit scores below 580 in terms of family economic well-being. As I mentioned, these cohorts tend to be a little bit younger. So most of the participating families are in their 20s. They're racially diverse, but predominantly African American. Um, a mix of one and two children households, some three children households. And then when we look at a breakdown of children, we'll see that the majority are actually in the 0 to 4 age group, so much younger kids. This is a busy map, so I'll walk through it with you here as we look at on the screen. This map is really looking at three different things. One is where participants used to live. Two is where they live today. And three is the neighborhood conditions of Franklin County. And that's measured by the Ohio Housing Finance Agency's Opportunity Index. And so the key to that is that the darker areas on that map indicate kind of higher resourced, higher opportunity areas. Um, in terms of where people came from and where they moved, if you look at the gray triangles, that's where folks originally were living. And again, we're just looking at our populations who are not homeless or doubled up in this map. Um, and then the pink represents where families have moved to. So as you kind of look at this, we talk about the fact that families kind of come from everywhere in Franklin County, all sides of the county. And a lot of the families actually come from what I'd say is some of the inner suburbs of Columbus. And these are areas kind of just within the outer belt on the east side, on the north side, and on the west side. So I'll start here with just some broad outcomes at a glance. First, I want to note this program has had an incredibly strong retention and graduation rate, with a retention graduation rate right now of 87%. And so, also very impressive, strong outcomes from those most vulnerable to their pre-program housing conditions. And that would be our families who were homeless or facing some other deep level of housing insecurity. Currently, 80% of participants who are formerly homeless or doubled up have remained enrolled in the program or have completed the program. And we want to note when you're, working, when families have experienced homelessness, that comes with a variety of different kind of aspects of trauma, as well as deeper kind of economic insecurity that they may be dealing with. Second part of our outcomes here is I want to just briefly go through some ratios with you in terms of our results. Um, and first, we'll start with housing and neighborhood satisfaction. Looking at the ratio of our participants who reported improved housing conditions, that'd be 9 out of 10 families. Similar ratio for those who see themselves in improved housing circumstances, and 4 out of 5 families note that they're greatly improved neighborhood environments. Economic conditions have also improved for families, but there is a little nuance to understanding this. Overall, 2 out of 3 participating families note improved economic circumstances. 2 out of 3 report improved incomes, and 1 out of 2 report improved employment status. But we do want to note that most of the improvements in economic conditions tend to come from families who've been in the program for at least 2 years. And we'll unpack kind of why that is here in a few minutes. But that ratio for families who have been in the program for 2 years, for example, would see 4 out of 5 reporting improved economic circumstances. The coaching program remains wildly popular. Uh, uh, 10 out of 10 families on average report a positive relationship with their coach, or in most cases, a very positive relationship. And 3 out of 4 identify kind of success and goal setting and goal completion working with their coach. And I'll share some of those goals with you a little later and some elements of what we hear from families as to why the coaching program works so well. Similar to the pilot program, we are seeing improvements for child educational outcomes. 3 out of 4 children are reported to have demonstrated positive impact or experienced positive impacts to their quality of life from the program enrollment. 4 out of 5 children are reported to have had positive adjustment to their new school learning environments, and 1 and 2 have seen improved grades in school. I will note as an anecdote that a number of children are under the age of 4. And so, some of these measures may be impacted by that as well. And finally, similar to the pilot, we do see health improvements. Half of participating families note improved health status. 2 out of 3 note improved mental health status. And in tracking emergency room usage for families prior to program entry and today, we've seen, and this is a conservative estimate, a decline of about 33% for emergency room usage for all participants. So how does housing improve condition? How do these housing improvements impact families? As we noted, there's a great deal of satisfaction with the housing that's been provided to these folks. And it really kind of comes down to issues related to safety, cleanliness, and space. And I will share throughout the next few slides just some quotes. So everything that's in quotation there are quotes generated from our year 2 participants. But you'll see as you kind of read through those quotes, the importance really of being in a high quality unit that meets, it's up to code, that's healthy, and also being in a space where folks feel safe. In addition, just the release of not having to deal with chronic housing insecurity or instability also provides a significant amount of mental health benefits to participating families. Again, similar to the pilot, how do neighborhoods impact families? We see kind of a couple of themes really emerge in that context. Most of this is tied to safety, as well as the conditions of the neighborhood around them. So, absence of disorder or blight or property upkeep. Folks often note the quietness of neighborhoods as kind of an aspect of neighborhood change that's been really fundamental to them. And then improved access to amenities, particularly things like parks and shopping. And when we say shopping, one of the points that often is raised is that better access to grocery stores has been a significant benefit for folks who, substantial benefit for folks who have moved. Again, I'll share some quotes from our families, and won't repeat these online, but please take a moment just to kind of skim through them. What I want to emphasize as you kind of look at these quotes is, again, recognize the importance of safety as one of the fundamental issues that impacts families and a fundamental benefit of the program for families. Moving into an environment where they feel safe for not only themselves but their children is one of the most important benefits of this program from the participants' perspective. So why is coaching successful? And again, I'll encourage you to read some of the quotes I've provided here. But I will just talk broadly about the themes of what we see in terms of why families feel like the coaching program is a success. The first is the importance of both consistency, availability, and also flexibility, right? And so coaches are showing up when they need to on a regular basis. They're also being flexible to kind of meet participating families where they are in terms of their ability to talk to them at times of kind of challenge or opportunity, and this kind of dependability and consistency combined with this flexibility to respond rapidly to situations as they arise is a really important element of the coaching program. As I noted in the previous discussion, coaches are really important for providing support and guidance in navigating both challenges and opportunities that families face. And you'll see just some examples of that there in terms of quotes that or perspectives shared by our participating families. Um, and then finally, the thing that undergirds all of this in the coaching program is the trust and the relationship building that forms between the coach and the families. Without that, the coaching program doesn't work. And so again, this is a really critical element in terms of explaining why the coaching program is so effective in that context. I won't read all of these, obviously, but again, kind of take a look at some of the examples that are provided to us. As we noted, 3 out of 4 participating families indicate that working with their coach, they've already set and achieved certain goals. And as you kind of just skim through some of the examples here, these goals range from health and wellness to career and job prospects or career development and job prospects to just financial well-being, things such as budgeting, setting up savings accounts, identifying financial goals. So again, when we think about the effectiveness of the program from the coaching perspective, the coaching is really critical to achieving those goals that help put families in a place where they can see more prosperity in the future. When we talk to families about the impact on children from the program, there are a few themes that tend to emerge consistently. The first is just the quality of more structured child educational opportunities within their new neighborhoods. So satisfaction with either daycare, kindergarten, or public school experiences. This also includes access to extracurriculars, sports, the peer kind of friends that they're making and the influence of those peers. And for those folks in really kind of higher resource schools, they're seeing more supportive resources for things like mental health, tutoring, and other forms of academic assistance. Again, as you read through these quotes, you'll see some of these themes emerge in comments from family members, or excuse me, from families in talking about their child's experience. And to note, again, it's not just being in a positive learning environment, but it's a learning environment that has resources that maybe they did not have in their previous school experiences. In looking at economic outcomes, an important thing to note here, as I noted earlier, is that economic benefits tend to emerge more in the second year of the program. What we see in terms of administrative data with these cohorts is a pretty significant engagement in education and training activities. And we anticipate those will continue to translate into economic benefits as families are in the program longer and once they leave the program. How do they improve their economic circumstances? Off of some of that is really about just having, documenting better career paths, helping folks kind of navigate and getting a promotion in the field that they wanted, for example. helping folks identify new employment opportunities, and then understanding kind of what upskilling they need to do to get into those opportunities that they find appealing. And finally, we have to recognize too that just the fact that rent support is provided, that this provides kind of a relief, an economic relief for families, which really allows them to engage deeper in both doing things like upskilling, getting certifications, going to school, or working with their coaches on a number of goals. So to conclude, um, what we can see here in terms of this third interim evaluation report is that we still have compelling evidence that Families Flourish is making very meaningful progress in its mission of supporting low-wage working families as they seek a path towards stability, opportunity, improved well-being, and in particular, economic mobility. I want to illustrate here the importance of the trifecta of program elements that the program provides. And this is a theme that we've seen consistently through the pilot and through all of these evaluations more recently. So one is that housing stability is a foundation, right? It's so critical to stabilizing families and to release kind of that chronic and toxic stress of dealing with extreme housing insecurity. But then the nexus of being in stable, safe housing and being housing secure is then amplified by being in a neighborhood environment where they feel safe and where they have kind of resources that they need access to. Finally, the coaching is really fundamental in in tandem with both neighborhood and housing, as it is the primary mechanism that helps folks navigate how to achieve goals so that they can be more prosperous going forward. And these goals can be anything from health and wellness to educational goals to career upskilling, a variety of different things that are really kind of fundamental from the interim perspective to get families where they want to go. Finally, when we talk about economic benefits, we have to recognize that these gains are kind of uneven, and that families really don't see the economic benefits right away. It's really something that tends to evolve after the second year in the program, where they're leveraging some of the upskilling certifications or other things they've done to kind of improve their economic circumstances. Finally, just a note on thinking more broadly about Families Flourish, the families that are in this program, and kind of what we see into our broader community. Um, this evaluation and past evaluations always kind of provide insight into the life experience of folks here in our community, and how they are impacted by various kind of macroeconomic factors. Um, what we see in terms of families at this time is the impact of inflation, growing housing market pressures. And I want to note, while families are in stable housing now, these growing housing market challenges are, some contributor to the fact that homelessness is much more prevalent among families coming into the program now than what we saw in the pilot program. Um, and then these other changes broadly in the economy. This obviously offers opportunity to kind of refine program elements. For example, looking at more financial coaching around dealing with this kind of another sudden spike in inflation and how to address that in terms of meeting family needs in a time of rising prices and costs. And finally, as we think broadly about Alice families, um, here in central Ohio, 98% of Families Flourish families meet this definition. And so what you're seeing here is not only a window in terms of the factors that are impacting them, but also the opportunities presented for stability and social mobility for these Alice families when they're put in a position where they can do the work they need to do to thrive. So, again, as we think about Families Flourish and what we see from an overarching trend that's gone through all the evaluations we've done, is that the program really creates the conditions that allows families to focus on longer term goals related to education, employment, and wellness. And that's really kind of the fundamental aspect of the program that contributes to improved quality of life and social mobility for families moving forward. So with that, I'll close out my formal presentation. We'll have Q&A. If you go to familiesflourish.org, you can see our latest report as well as a summary report. And a very long evaluation report. I was only able to scratch the surface on some of the content there. So please if you're interested, check out these additional materials. And with that, I will end the slideshow and stop sharing.
So thank you so much, Jason. Oh, I like that slide. We are just so privileged to be able to work with you over the years as you see the changes and are able to make comparisons and extrapolate what this all means. One thing I'd like to highlight before we begin the Q&A is that we are a two-generation program. And our focus started with impacting the children. And then we realized, look what's happening with our program as we impact the adults. But so many programs focus just on the adults, and the kids are not necessarily put in a better position. And our focus is we've got to make sure the next generation is able to flourish. And all of the things you said about safety and opportunities is about providing that to the children. And we're watching those changes happen. So we're privileged to be able to see that and to be able to empower families and continue this work. So thank you for all the work you've done, Jason, in helping us learn over the years, and as well as Dr. Rachel Cleet, one of our co-founders. For everybody who's listening in today, we meet with the OSU team almost every week as we analyze the impact we're making and changes we should be thinking about. So from there, does anyone have any questions? We also have Jamie, who you met earlier, here to answer questions that her expertise can shed light on. Shiloh, any questions?
I do not see any questions posted to the Q&A or to the chat.
So give everybody one more minute to get your questions in. And if not, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We're looking for more reasons to gather stakeholders like you throughout the year. So if you have feedback or ideas about how best to serve you in those ways, please let Shiloh know. And thank you so much for joining us and for being with us through this journey as we are empowering families to flourish for future generations. Thank you and have a great week.